Hello and welcome back. This is obviously the first kind of thing I've done for a few days, and I just kind of wanted to go through the updates from kind of Warcom for the last few days. I've just been a little bit too busy to do anything currently, and so yeah, I thought I'd kind of do it all as one. So there is a little bit more information, which is good, and hopefully kind of it's going to come a bit quicker than it has done for the past few days, because it has been a little bit slow with some things, because it went from being kind of quite a lot and then suddenly gave us very little. So yeah, just going to kind of go through bits. I'm not going to do too much on the Armageddon box, because obviously they've got their own big video for it, and there's not a massive amount of kind of things can glean from it other than half read some bits. There's a few things that are useful. There's kind of one full stratagem we can see, but yeah, so we have kind of what is going to be included in the box. Annoyingly, there wasn't really much in the way of how kind of any new missions, any secondaries, any kind of look at the cars, any deployments, or any new layouts. So that was a shame. I felt that there wasn't anything more for that, but most of it I think was obviously geared to being around the models. So 23 Space Marines and 38 Orcs, fair amount of models, similar to the previous edition, Leviathan, so fairly standard. Biggest thing for me is the land speeder itself is back. It has kind of similar thing, but it now has an assault cannon and a melter / another weapon, I think heavy bolter, and then you also have rockets, so it's a little bit more heavily armed than the previous version. It is bigger than obviously the original one, and the base is an oval as opposed to kind of circle. You then have the Vanguard vets, which are damage 2 now, which is nice. From what we could see of the data card, there isn't anything new in terms of weapon options that have been made on that. Whether there will be a new one in the codex when they release the full kit as opposed to the box set version, who knows. Other major one was the Eradicators with heavy bolters. That's kind of a new option for Eradicators, so they're kind of bringing across the Devastators options slowly, and whether they're all the same or whether they're like Eradicators where there is a slight variation of the heavy bolter, I don't know, didn't see any data card, but yeah, I mean, it's nice to have another Gravis option. You then have the Chaplain with Jump Pack, which they had obviously previously showcased. Another Ancient, Librarian, Captain and Intercessors are resculpts of existing models, which is good because again we don't want a huge host of bloat to the Space Marine Codex, because there is a lot of data sheets. It makes for a very large kind of army. Currently kind of 40,000 plus points if you wanted to have every option, which is not exactly cheap to collect. The Orcs kind of really were the ones, and based on kind of the reaction on the internet, are the ones that have kind of really stolen the show. The lead up with the Let's See a Gretchen a Day was a little bit sad. Personally, I'm not that interested in the Gretchen, which probably doesn't help. But kind of was hoping for a little bit more information about 11th, as kind of useful to know, interesting, kind of want to see a little bit more about how the rules interact. The Big Mech Dakar rig, which is their kind of almost equivalent of kind of Primaris Dreadnought, I guess, looks like a lot of guns, hence the name. It's a cool model. All of the new models look great. They're great updates to the older versions, even if they are kind of significantly larger. The war tracks like over double the size, so that's quite significant. And the Weird Boy, and the Pain Boy, I really actually like the models for. But yeah, you can actually get decent close-ups of looking at the different models online. It also went through the fact that you will be able to first access the chapter approved deck in there, as well as an additional deck that allows you to play kind of campaigns, which is nice, and which is a nice return as well, the conveniently sized core rulebook. which is great because carrying around the massive tome for events was a bit painful. The biggest thing for me where they showcased the core rulebook that I saw that I really like, and I'm really hoping this kind of makes it into the actual app itself, is where they've actually got kind of reference points for the different rules. So mortal wound is a 06.02, so they're actually easily referenceable, which hopefully makes it quicker when having to look things up in the early days of 11th edition, where you are trying to find out the rules or work out the rules, because it's a pain sometimes when you're trying to find something really specific in the app or in the book at the moment, just to kind of clarify something. So hopefully the reference point is kind of consistent and kept going, just purely from being able to update frequently and easily. So explosives is the kind of readable stratagem that kind of you could see within the video. So explosives, boom, it's great. It's the same as kind of it is now, just with a new name. Still has to have the same keywords, but there's a slight chance that there might be more options because they put the word explosives in, so people are hopeful for Tyranids being able to kind of have access to it. Otherwise, very similar. Roll 6 dice, mortal wound on a 4. They've now hard included the you can't advance and do it, and you have to be eligible to shoot. So very similar to now, but they've added in changes that kind of were added during 10th. Red Terror data sheet. This guy's going to be 130 points. He goes up for a pre-order this weekend, so we'll be live kind of near middle end of month. Will it be 9th on Saturday? So 23rd. So yeah, pretty close to the end of edition, but we'll at least kind of be out for 11th. So it'll be interesting to see how much people get to use him. Fairly okay profile. Lack of invuln is pretty big, because that is going to make it hard for him to be survivable without lone op or anything like that. He does have some rules that will help with keeping him alive though. So he's move 10, so fairly quick. One of his rules, which is the Serpentine Fiend, he can move through terrain and it's move, so it means he can do it in the charge phase as well, which is pretty big. There's a lot of units that have this kind of rule that it's restricted, so that they cannot do it as a charge move. So that's huge, and I don't know how often this will come up because it doesn't show his base size, but he can appear on any level in a ruin, which, yeah, I mean, most ruin floors are 32 to 50 mil on current WTC, so it'll be interesting to see how many ruins in 11th edition will allow him to appear and land. So otherwise he then is toughness 8, which is kind of middly. It's a rare toughness point, but it's okay. A 3-up save, fairly standard for the Tyranid monsters. 9 wounds, it's okay. Leadership 8, obviously synapse, so hopefully anytime he takes a leadership check he's within synapse range of something, because he doesn't have it himself. OC 3, kind of middly for a monster. He then has a fair amount of keywords. He has Burrower, Vanguard, Invader, and Great Devourer. So the Burrower and Vanguard Invader is really useful for 2 of the detachments, allows him to interact with those. Burrower for the one that allows him to reroll ones, completely the tunnel one. So really useful for that. He's going to hit a lot of the time because he hits on 2s. He has a good number of attacks, and at the end of the fight phase with his subterranean horror, he can disappear, and importantly, it's the end of any fight phase, not just yours or opponents. So if he fails a charge and you're like, oh, never mind, doesn't have to have fought, you can just disappear off the board so he doesn't die to high volume fire. And similarly at the end of kind of your turn, if he does make the charge and it's not scoring you secondaries, primary can just disappear off. And the same then can be rapid ingress somewhere safe, rinse and repeat. Does require CP commitment, so that is something to consider. But into Space Marine and or equivalent or lower toughness. He's going to be quite useful for clearing screens, killing off anything holding objectives, all that sort of thing. I think he's quite useful. 130 points, kind of roughly around points of Raveners, it would seem. 5 points, 10 points more maybe. But 12 attacks, 722, hitting on 2s in the tunnel, subterranean assault, that's the name. Rerunning 1s, he's going to hit roughly 12 times. If he's in invasion fleet, he's going to hit at least 12 times. If he's targeting infantry, for example, getting this as sustained. So, and then wounding on 3s. So on average, he's going to do about 7-8 wounds. So again, without armor contempt, he has a high chance of killing a Space Marine detachment. Space Marine 5-man unit or equivalent, excluding invulns. If it's obviously into a T3 unit, wounding on 2s, he's going to wipe a 5-man unit fairly consistently. You then have his other attack, the Gaping Maw, which is great for potentially killing a character, and then if you really wanted to, you could spend the CP for the Epic Challenge to have precision on both weapons to really go and kind of hunt down and kill a character. But if it's an infantry mounted or beast unit, which is very rare for actually to include mounted, it's very rare that keyword comes up. Interestingly, doesn't have swarm. But every time it with the Gaping Maw attack targets one of those units, if it's successful, it's an auto crit wound, so it's just devs, which is D3 plus 2, so small chance of killing an average character on well, it's a 66% chance if it doesn't have a feel no pain to kill anything that is 4 wounds or less, or 3 wounds is automatic, but smaller chance if they're a kind of a CSM character who have a lot of 5 wound characters. But I think it's an interesting model. It will be interesting to see how it plays and interacts. The uppy downy is a big part. If it had lone op, that would be really good, but 130 points, maybe a little bit too much, not sure, but I think it has uses in kind of different, the Subterranean Assault particularly detachment, but as it's going to kind of appear at the end of the edition, will be interesting to see kind of what it does in 11th. They then kind of today have started to reveal the detachments. From the looks of things, that is going to be the next kind of 20 something days. It depends on how they spread it out. All the detachments in your current codex are usable, as well as extra detachments like that from the Reign of Iron and the Lair of the Tyrant, the 2 new books. There's also going to be 70 new and updated detachments launched with the new edition. Some will be the Grotmus ones, not all. Mostly will be brand new. So the Orcs, probably because they're going to be one of the early codexes, are first up. You have Tactical Grade Daka, and then you have Rolling Death as the kind of 3 detachments, 2 of which are going to be in the Grotmus ones. Sorry, there you go. So the first one, you have Rolling Death, which is the new one. As the detachment role, it is Battle Wagons, Hunter and Kill Rigs have Wagon as a keyword. Wagon units can reroll charges. It's pretty nice. For the war turn, and generally, they just auto advance 6, which is pretty big in terms of movement, especially with the size of them. Those models being able to kind of give up movement for pivot is pretty big, assuming pivot still exists in 11th. The detachment has the Wagons tag and cannot be taken with other Wagons detachments, so this is interesting to see a restriction that exists that may exist in other detachments. So if it has a keyword tag given to it, which I'm going to imagine they add to quite a few so that they can make them cheaper without you adding, say, the new one where you have the get back in the transport, whatever the new one is called, for orcs and things like that, where you can double down on buffing a particular unit. You then have the enhancement, which has the upgrade keyword, which means you can take it up to 3 times in Strike Force, a 2,000 point game. Wagon unit only. Units that disembark +1 to charge. Yep, pretty solid ability, especially when charges are theoretically getting an inch further away. And yeah, a solid upgrade. Again, who knows how many points, but it'll be interesting to see as and when it kind of comes out. You then have Brutal Broadside as a strat. You get Rapid Fire X, where it's that number of attacks. So if the gun has 3 attacks, then it would be Rapid Fire 3. If it has 10, it would be Rapid Fire 10. You don't get to use firing deck with it, sadly, but it only can be used on a battle wagon unit. So very kind of limited to 3 units in your army. But the battle wagon has a fair amount of shots, so kind of interesting. Don't know obviously what the profile will be when the codex comes out, whether it will massively change or whether it's very similar, but yeah, vaguely interesting. Not hugely powerful so far, but it's at least good to start seeing what new detachments kind of might exist and kind of how they're going to be worded and limitations. You then have the Tactical Brigade, the one that was a Grotmus one. So you have Listen Here, friendly Storm Boys units have battle line. You can advance, fallback move, and also still be able to do an action. It's pretty big from the change because this was all about the different kind of fake guard orders. So it's quite a big nerf to this detachment, it would feel. So whether this one is going to be a 1 or a 2 pointer, I don't know, because it very specifically calls out 3 units, but we shall have to see. You then have Slippery Git as an enhancement, which is an infantry war boss model only, not mega armor. Infiltrate and stealth, it's pretty good. However, unfortunately, you can't give it to the rest of the army, so it's either just him or whether war bosses can then start going with commandos. Yeah, is good, but stealth is pretty useful. Again, we don't know what stealth will do in 11th. If it does continue to be the same, -1 to hit with the -1 ballistic skill is pretty solid, because you then have -2 to hit effectively, which is huge, but stealth might become the equivalent of current cover. We don't know, so it might be +1 to your save, but yeah, unknown with that one. You then have the stratagem of Dead Sneaky, 1 CP, Tactical Brigade stratagem. When end of your opponent's fight phase, 1 friendly unengaged commander or storm boys, put them into reserve. Really useful for being able to reposition. Again, massively kind of downgraded detachment, but it's interesting to start seeing what they look like. Then they've also shared one of the secondary cards, which is called Plunder. Very interestingly, if you have Cleanse, so we know Cleanse now exists as well, you can draw 1 new secondary mission card and shuffle this card back into your secondary mission deck, which is cool, so you're not stuck with the 2 actions. So hopefully that's something that exists on multiple cards, that it means you don't have to double down on doing the same thing, but you can choose to. So if you have a very unit heavy army, you kind of can go, cool, I can do 3 actions in a turn. It's great. So shooting phase, standard kind of for an action. 1 unit within a terrain area that is not within your territory. Your territory is your half of the board, so you have to be in the opponent's half of the board to kind of do this action. So it's a little bit kind of more aggressive, so you need a slightly quick unit or something that's infiltrated potentially. That terrain area is plundered and it completes immediately, so they haven't got to survive, and it's 5 points, so it's a decent number of points. Again, for certain armies it's going to be much easier than others, because committing a knight, for example, or in custode, so you don't have custodian guard to do this unless they're already in your opponent's territory, is quite a lot of points for 5 points. But something like Drakari, a unit of Reavers, job done. Very cheap unit, 5 points, kind of worth it. Or a unit of Witches, Mandrakes, all those sorts of things, kind of at least value for there. And then finally they shared Dakar, effectively more Dakar but rewritten. So you have Assault, always a useful ability. It's massively nerfed compared to what it was, which kind of after the kind of fallout, I'm not surprised from when it was originally released. Orc units get sustained on their hit rolls, on their ranged attacks. So not sustain 2 as it originally was, but sustain 1, so it's much less powerful, and it's limited to the WAR, which is much more restrictive. So the enhancement, Dead Shiny Shooters, again it's an upgrade, so it can take it multiple times. Again, no idea how much it costs. If it's a 10-point upgrade, amazing. If it's a 50-point upgrade, very expensive very quickly. Orcs infantry unit only, so you cannot stack this on the new dread thing that they've the Dakar dread, which would be probably a bit hilarious, but for tank busters, flash kits, that sort of thing, getting rapid fire 1 is pretty big. If they already have rapid fire 1, it becomes rapid fire 2. Solid. Gives you a bit more volume, which kind of when you're hitting on 5s and 6s is pretty useful. And again, it will then impact the characters that are with it as well, but obviously once the unit dies you then lose the ability, and obviously they have to be on the board, I assume, to use it, because they wouldn't have the ability, but you never know, that might be a change to firing deck that we see. We then have finally cool Dakar, 1 CP, opponent shooting phase. You get to shoot back using snap shooting, which we'll go through in a second because they've shared that, but I'm going to kind of pair that with the Overwatch stratagem that we could kind of see part of in the video, because we now kind of can see the whole thing, so we know another strat. It does mean you can only target that unit that shot you, so it's, yeah, shoot back stratagem, which is, you know, for 1 CP, pretty solid. However, the way that Overwatch works is it is only in your opponent's movement phase, and they have to be an unengaged unit. It is still the same range, but it's only movement phase, so not charge as well, so you don't have the either or. It is, however, the end of your opponent's movement phase, which is pretty big. It's interesting because it's massively swings up in one way, massively swings down another. But yeah, so end of opponent's movement phase, can pick an unengaged unit. You get to use the snap shooting rule, which again, I really like the fact that they have got 15.09, the reference, so you will be able to hopefully refer to other things and kind of quickly look things up when it mentions snap shooting. So your unit shoots as described in making attacks. However, while shooting, so there we have that reference for 0.404, which will be somewhere in the cool rulebook about making attacks. While shooting, you can only target 1 visible enemy unit within 24, and only if it's an eligible target, so not engaged, not hidden, I imagine, as well. And I don't know if there's any other restrictions like low knock, for example, still. Each attack only hits on an unmodified hit roll of a 6, irrespective of the attacking weapon's ballistic skill characteristic or any modifiers. The big change with Overwatch is you cannot reroll hit rolls, so things like obviously the current pack bound, where the Defiler is re-rolling off Abaddon and deleting the Sun, even in Overwatch, can't do that. And then kind of added in, after shooting until the end of the phase, your unit is not eligible to start an action, so the orcs can't do that. I'm not really, there must be some other effects that involve snap shooting, because the only time you can do actions is in your shooting phase generally, so I don't know if there'll be some new actions that occur in other places, but they've kind of put that limitation in just to stop that kind of occurring. So that is kind of the rules to date. It is good that we're starting to get some more. Tomorrow is Space Marines, so I'll do a short video about that hopefully as well tomorrow, or I might save a couple up. It will just purely depend on how much time I have to kind of get things done. And yeah, just going to keep updating with little bits around the new edition, and then hopefully we should start seeing further rules as well. They're kind of giving teasers. We've had a secondary, we've had more information about snap shooting, so they are kind of again drip feeding into the detachments. It looks like other rules to kind of keep us interested. I mean, as a complete ballpark, if they're going to do it one a day, Monday to Friday they tend to do, so that is 23 days. The main one will be whether they do the supplements individually or together, whether Demons and Deathwatch have a book or have a update is going to be interesting to see, because that is quite impactful. Either way, I think they're probably looking to do it based on the reaction that occurred from the community around Demons not getting a codex and around Deathwatch kind of being legends. So that will be the big one, I think. But yeah, it kind of ties in with a lot of things where people are saying that the start of June will be when the kind of new edition is likely to launch. Warhammer World is doing some renovations which are likely posed around kind of getting things set up. There is also for the 20th an open play at Warhammer World in the UK, which is likely to be for the new edition because they don't do them that often. And yeah, I think we're kind of gearing up, and it will be interesting to see how much more and how quickly we get more information. Please do like, share, subscribe, all the kind of jazz, and yeah, follow on Facebook and Instagram to kind of keep updated with everything else.